Well, they got me, gal. Nice.
They're like warmers.
I'm really into saying that lately whenever I don't know what to say.
Saying, what did you
Well, they got me, gal. I don't know why that's like, it really just scratches the itch in my brain the right way. Well, I'll text you, catastrophe has occurred, and then I'll turn my phone off.
I hate that.
I know
I will
you do.
literally come find you.
Anyway, guys, welcome back to the All Right Cute podcast.
Welcome to episode 11.
11. By now, if you have not streamed the 6th episode of George and Tammy, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Please go watch it.
It's been here.
This thing right here is in it, and she slays it. Do you want to play a game?
Yes.
Let's list 2 celebrities.
Okay.
This is a version of most likely to, but it's most likely to, like, who's the narc?
Who's going to tell on me?
Which, between these 2, who's more likely to be either an undercover cop or just a general snitch?
Okay.
Okay. So, I'll start.
Okay.
Was there any questions?
I was going to say, is there one of them that is the opposite? Or is it just like between the two, which one's going to definitely...
Likely?
Okay.
Yeah. So let's go some Gen Zs first. Let's go Olivia Rodrigo, Addison Rae. I don't know.
Can we say, are we snitching to like cops or are we snitching to like
no.
the internet?
So they...
Like, are they blasting me?
Who? Oh, that's true.
Do you know what I mean? Like, are they
assume both.
Or
Let's
telling
assume...
everyone in this famous people circle?
No, because narc implies that they're undercover and that you don't, like, you're not going to need to know who the mole was or who the narc was. Who's most likely to be an undercover cop between Addison Rae and Olivia Rodrigo? We're truly, on the All Right Cute podcast, we only ask the essential questions.
I'm going to say...
I don't know a lot about these girls, to be honest.
I'm going to say Olivia Rodrigo because she has... in her songs, she has an attention to detail. And I think that her, and also she's very much in the like writing realm of like Taylor Swift, like they have very similar styles. And I feel like if anyone were to need information, she would have it stockpiled, but then she could use it. That could be a great profession for her. You know what I mean?
Hard to argue with that.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that... Yeah, I think that's my answer.
That was a great answer. That was pretty deep. I was going to say, do you remember that time? I was going to say Addison Rae only because, do you remember during COVID when she wore she's photographed by paparazzi wearing a face mask that is a clear plastic shield and just holding it over her, and she's like serving into the paparazzi camera. It's one of the funniest photos I've ever seen. You know what? I saved it recently. Why is she serving into the camera? My sense of humor is broken. We both know that. I think that's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Just her just being like clearly using a mask that doesn't work.
Also,
does
yeah,
not
that's
work.
what I was about to say. It's like literally there's no point to that.
There's
just
no
like
point.
Throw it out.
It is so funny.
Throw it out.
So yeah, Addison Rae, because anyone who soft serves into a camera using a fake mask is probably going to be a narc. Franco brothers, James versus Dave. Right? Isn't that James Franco, Dave Franco?
Yes, yeah. I have Franco, Dave No, I have James Franco more in my head than Frank. Wait, what was the other one?
James Franco and Dave.
Oh, wait, hold up. Okay, I have them in my head.
Yes.
I'm going to say the younger one. I'm going to say the younger. Dave is the younger one. I'm going to say Dave.
There's this third one, apparently. Forbidden Franco brother.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm going to say the younger one because I believe that the younger children are typically...
snitches.
Yeah, a little bit. But then also, like, the older one usually, like, goes through the most first and it, like, prepares the parent for, like, what their children are capable of. Either in a good way or it's either, you know what I'm saying? It's usually a good way or, like, a not good way.
Right.
And, like, the younger siblings are, like, trying to, like, either clean up the mess or trying to keep up. There's, like, I feel like there's no in between.
Well said.
But I feel like the older Franco is the one where it's like he's creating messes and the younger one is like trying to still like keep his life afloat, and I think that's why.
Totally. I think he's the younger Franco brother for sure, which I believe is Dave. Because here's my analysis based on that photo that I just looked at.
Yep.
Younger Franco brothers' eyebrows are very intense. And I don't know anything about narcs truly, but if
you can hide stuff in there.
if there
you can.
If you if your eyebrows are more intense, I just feel like you're more likely to be a narc. I don't know. That's just how I feel.
You're intimidating.
Intimidating. There's
And
a
you
lot
can
going
use it to your
on.
advantage
Which might
in an
be
interrogation.
really rich coming from me because I have white hair and dark eyebrows. But
I dyed my eyebrows recently.
spread
Can
the
you tell?
news. I'm a narc. No, not really.
They're like they're usually really blonde
Oh.
and they're darker.
They look like they perfectly match your hair.
See, and typically they don't. Typically they're just like see-through. But also so I went and got them done, and then the girl was like, I was like, can you just also tint my lashes as well? Because I've had that done before. And she was just like, ooh, like this girl wasn't qualified for it. And so I had to roll out looking like I just had my eyelashes like ripped off of my eyes and that my eyebrows were so strong.
That's so funny.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I looked very alien, but it's fine. They're like, the more I wash my face, the more subtle they become.
You know what I want to try? I've never had a lash lift. And I feel like me with like just lashes for days would be such a serve.
You should try it.
I would love to try a lash lift.
You should.
If there are any good lash artists in Smashville, let me know.
Hit us up.
Okay, next let's do a couple more.
Okay.
Meryl Streep, Jessica Lange.
Meryl Streep.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a hard one because these are two people that I actively have celebrity crushes on. Actively.
Meryl Streep.
Okay, let me think.
Jessica Lange is just like cool.
Ethereal. She's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you, Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
I just feel like she'd never do that though. But neither of them would. But between the two of them, no.
It's between
tell you
the
what,
two.
Tell you what. Meryl Streep has been so publicly a person for the people. Jessica Lange, I don't know her whole history. I can't pretend to know her whole history. But I feel like based on the roles she's played and just generally as a persona, I feel like Meryl Streep gives more like outwardly.
Yeah.
And Jessica Lange is a bit more mysterious.
Yeah.
Narc. Jessica Lange is a narc.
Maybe.
Pass it on.
I think for me she always plays very like Meryl Streep specifically always plays very like dominating roles, like very like in charge, in control.
Devil Wears Prada.
And very much that. But then Jessica Lange, she plays a lot of roles, and more like in recent years where she's like putting up this persona, but like she's doing like crazy stuff on the side. And I think that like her acting choices have influenced my decision.
Love it.
These are not going to add up. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Hayden Panettiere and
Okay.
Weird Al Yankovic.
Easily Hayden Panettiere. I just feel like she gives narc. Weird Al would, maybe, I don't know. But short people,
Is she short?
she's short. Let's see. Don't want me to spell that word. She's 5 foot. That's a
Wow.
shorty. That's a
Yeah.
shorty. And I don't know, short people
Fun
are,
size.
Yeah, shout out to all the short friends that we have.
Yeah.
Stevie, Mariah, Dara,
Yeah.
all of y'all are narcs.
Everybody. You're just teensy. You can
What
fit
about-
in all the little cracks and
Ooh.
crevices to see and get what you need.
The Paul brothers. Logan Paul and Jake Paul.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Both of them suck.
I'm going to say
They're going to cancel us. They're going to find us and just like literally assassinate us somehow. Between the two of them, objectively,
it's going to be Logan.
I feel like it's Jake.
Really?
Because objectively, between the two of them, Jake Paul is like consistently worse. Logan Paul apparently has like made a comeback. Have you heard about this?
I have, but I've also heard that Logan Paul's gotten into trouble with like NFT stuff.
That doesn't surprise
Like,
me.
I don't know, whatever. But I think that in my brain, it's like they both are in like the same world. They both do like the same kind of dumb stuff to get attention and like get views or whatever. They both have always just done the same things. Like, they both touched into boxing for a little bit. They both, they both were YouTubes. They were both like they've followed in each other's like waves for sure, like the tides that they've. Yeah.
Yep.
But I think that Logan has a quicker. I mean, I'm not even sure because I don't really follow them that deeply. But like, I feel as though Logan is quicker to feel bad than Jake is.
Quicker to have remorse.
Right. And I think Jake
see.
definitely has a lot more. He reads to me as if his ego is so much bigger. Between the two of them, not that they
completely
don't both
agree
have
with
big
you.
ego,
I
big
completely
egos,
agree with you.
but I do think that like just because he's younger and like he's like still on that like hype wave, I think I don't know. I think his testosterone level hits a little bit different than and it affects him in his choices.
We're talking
and
about
the way he
toxic
says-
masculinity.
I
How
don't know,
about that?
whatever. I just think that
totally.
Yeah, that's my choice. I think I don't know.
Totally. And now that you mention it, I think like when I'm thinking of like who would the narc be, right?
Right.
It's like I think maybe from this one I was approaching it of like who do I like less, and maybe that's not the right way to go. But because between the two of them, Logan is significant. Excuse me, Jake is significantly more insufferable. Does insufferability equate to being a narc?
I don't invest my like brain power on them long enough to know which one I dislike more.
That's probably
to know
not a bad thing
that
for
either.
you. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Anyway, well, that was a fun little game.
Yes.
So the moment that when we were at, and this was like weeks ago at this point,
Yes.
but the New Year's Eve party,
Yes.
there was a thing that happened that, because we're talking in society these days about, you know, Black Mirror, and maybe we're in end times, who knows. Anyway, being at a party full of Gen Zs and being technically Gen Zs and Be Real going off is the most Black Mirror thing I've ever experienced, because it's like myself included,
Yeah.
I fell for it. Like I was like, Be Real went off, and everybody was like, stop, take your Be Real, move on. So Black Mirror-y, right? And so I was having this conversation literally yesterday with someone, because I think it can be agreed that Facebook is now for people over like 40,
Yes.
for the most part.
Or just small town.
Or just small town, totally.
Small town
Very that.
groups, I think, definitely utilize Facebook a lot more, because I think
Totally.
the younger people in smaller towns move in their life like milestones faster, and so I think
what a
that.
take.
So with that being said, like there are a lot of like people our age who are already on their like third or fourth child,
Right.
And Facebook is very like very mom culture, just because it's like you want your friends to see your kids. I mean, people will do that on Instagram, but I feel like Facebook is more of like a deep dive into like your daily, and I
Totally.
think that especially in small towns, because everyone's really invested in other people's lives. It's a tool,
Right.
if anything.
I was thinking about this yesterday. What comes next? Because, okay, here's a better way to word it. Facebook is now for your parents. Instagram for our generation is becoming like our new Facebook, where I think we're like ultimately going to phase. I mean, I think it's always going to be a thing in the same way that Facebook now has like staying power.
Right.
But I think we're treating it differently now, noticeably. There is that whole kind of, at least unspoken thing among our generation that like after the age of 23 you don't really use Snapchat that much anymore. Like Snapchat's for like a college market, I
Right,
guess. I don't know
yes.
why. So the question was like, what's going to be the next after Instagram? Because the reality is, how many more social media types can be invented, truly? And the answer to that probably is infinite amounts, because the thing is, it's the basic model of something being a social media platform. You basically tweak one thing to have a competitive advantage, and then you're moving on.
I think also with the progression of technology, like as our phones and our devices progress in like advancements, like in the future, let's say there are holograms involved. I think
probably.
that before, when we were using Facebook, we weren't really using our cell phones as much. It was mainly computers, desktops, laptops, and then the transition of like the iPhone led to apps, and then that's why Facebook was able to have an app. But then with that, it was like, okay, well, what more can we do with our apps? Also, your phone has video camera. Let's make Vines, let's make TikToks, let's make stuff like that. Let's implement video
Short-form
more.
content got its rise.
Got its rise. And now I think short form content is still going to stay, but I think that as time goes on, our technology is going to shift, and that's going to end up shifting what is the most popular. Because let's say we have hologram phones or whatever.
Right.
Then there needs to be an app for content for the hologram. So like that's 360.
Totally.
You know what I mean? I
That's
think
so true.
I think the future is 360 content. I think the future
That's so
is
fascinating.
3D content. I think it's
maybe significantly more interactive.
maybe it's like 4D experiences in your
Right.
hand. Like, you know how you can go to the movie theater and go to like a 4D movie where you can sit in the chairs that shake and then like mists of like smells hit your face. I think honestly it would be really cool if one day, and I'm future telling right right now. If one day we had 4D devices that not only like hologrammed like size and shape and like real time what it will look like, but then at the same time it has like smell nodes in the phone somehow that like push out a smell, like smell-o-vision, where you can like smell something, or if it's like something's cooking, you can smell it, or if it's like a perfume, you can smell what the perfume is, or like
that'll be the first thing. Once that technology comes out, that's gonna be the first thing we implement. Y'all are gonna be able to smell us.
Yeah,
that's what we're gonna do.
And it'll be our phones. It'll be watches. Very Spy Kids of us.
Yeah.
I think there is a lot to look forward to, but like also the human mind, it's just like it's never maxed out for ideas. I feel
totally.
like.
And it's so interesting how the level of innovation has drastically accelerated. And I think when it comes
I think we'll utilize VR more.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And when it comes to platforms, with social media platforms in particular, with staying power, truthfully, I think the ones that have profiles are going to be the ones that have the most, because there's a market for social media platforms that have profiles that you can represent yourself a certain way. Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. Sort of Twitter. Twitter's more words. I think in order to be successful as a platform, you kind of have to be multimedia. That's just my opinion, but I'm not an expert. I'm just a Gen Z. Could be an expert.
Eventually.
With that being said, because someone yesterday suggested, maybe Be Real is going to be the next thing. And I'm like, the thing about Be Real, though, is that you can't even really people can't access your Be Reals from previous days.
Right.
It's in that moment.
It's very just moment.
And then it's done.
Yeah.
And you can't go to people's profiles. There's not like stuff to check out. You know what I mean? So I think there's certainly a market for platforms like Be Real, because it's genius, frankly, because it's like what we're trending towards as a society is authenticity.
Yes.
Which I'm noticing and I'm liking. Mm-hmm. And I think it's even infiltrated stuff like our vernacular. So you know how everyone around our age right now is saying stuff like, I'm in my blah blah era, I'm in my so-and-so era. Like, I say that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And what I think, and that's like a trendy thing to say.
Yeah.
And I think that's fascinating, because I think what that implies is when you say I'm in my blank era,
right?
What that says is here's the presence.
Yes.
Here's what's happening right now.
Yes.
And it's kind of, hopefully, it's kind of an acknowledgement of the neutrality of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I'm in this era, I'll be in another one soon.
Yeah.
It's an acknowledgement that time passes and that things are temporary.
It's a seasonal thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that we're subconsciously trending towards authenticity. Maybe I'm like a reckless optimist, but I just feel like this might mean good things for like our emotional maturity as a society. I freaking hope so, frankly.
I think it could be that, but it could also be a mixture of something that's been around as long as the tale is time, which is group mentalities, like trying to stay, not necessarily, maybe a little bit of groupthink, but also like everyone knows what I mean when I say this era. Everyone has experienced this time in their life before, creating some sort of commonality with the public. Relatability. It could also kind of be a little bit of that, which is a little bit digressive, because it's kind of like, I think it also, I don't know. There's a lot of, right now, we're kind of in the age of like individualism, which I think is, it's individualism to the point where like, in a perfect world, it would be ideal, but like, because people are just selfish, it just turns into like this me show, and like, how can I step apart, and how can I be different from everybody else?
Absolutely.
And like, I think the way that we are supposed to be is communal, and I think that like everyone, yes, is different, but like we're different because we have our own experiences and things that are like meant to be tools that we can utilize that are specific to us to help other people.
Yep, people gatekeep them.
Yeah, and people end up gatekeeping, and people end up getting so focused on like this me, this I, like I hate being put into a box. I hate like they want to like step so far outside of like the status quo, when it's like I don't know. It's just really pointless.
Totally.
Bit.
I think
it's like
I completely agree with you.
I don't know.
I think we could benefit from some collectivism, like
for sure,
a lot. Like I think, and I think we might trend towards that, whether we want to or not.
Right, and I think that trying to individualize yourself so hard to where it almost like isolates you can be dangerous and can be not healthy. And I think that in a sense you can sometimes end up lying to yourself about like what is actually going on because you're so invested in making it about like, this is my truth. Example, this is my truth. I feel this way right now, and this is how I am, and this is what's going on. So that means that this and this and this, and like no one can tell me any different because it's what's going on with me. It's like yes, but also like those things may be happening to you, and you may be going through these things. But like again, it's the seasonal thing.
You could benefit from some perspective.
Benefit from perspective, and you benefit from communicating with other people and learning from other people and. You know, just leaning on other people.
Definitely.
When maybe you're just going through some trauma and you might benefit from some help.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Vulnerability is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I'm not used to it. I'm not used to going to people and being like, hi, I'm struggling. And what would help me right now is even just for you to listen. Like, I'm not used to that.
Yeah. And
because I'm a victim of being part of such an individualistic society. You got to rely on yourself. You can't trust anybody. You got to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And you got to be cautious. But I think a lot of us have moved away from trusting our instinct.
Yeah.
Because that instinct is divine, frankly. That instinct is the universe connecting you. That's God. That's everything. So I think people have a better read on situations than they realize, perhaps.
And I think that social media can feed into that as well, heavily.
Totally.
And I think that social media does that on purpose as well because it's money for them. the more that they know, because the more that you feed into social media and like what you like and how different you are, the more they feed that to the advertisers. And then they're like, oh, we know exactly who that person is. Let's feed them this. Let's feed them this.
Totally.
And then it just like perpetuates that like, you know, whatever.
What's
like, it just is what it is.
I was literally thinking about this the other day, and it's funny that you said that. It's interesting what the trends are for the corporations versus what we see front facing. So, for example,
most of the time they're the same thing, but they're just from different like points of view.
Wait, that's an interesting take. Okay, let's apply that because let me tell you this. So, I was on a flight for Thanksgiving, and they had like interrupted us. Everyone was asleep, and they interrupted us at the end of the flight to be like, and I might have already talked about. Wait, did I already talk about this?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Credit? Oh, anyway, they interrupted us at the end of the flight to be like, sign up for our American Airlines credit card or whatever.
Okay.
Well, I think it was American Airlines.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is like the 5th corporation today that has asked me to get a credit card. And so what I think we're realizing, and I might cut this whole thing out if we have already talked about this, but is the profit model right now for corporations is getting you on credit because then you owe them. You know what I mean?
That's always been credit for sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so credit is like just elevated subscription service. You know what I mean? And so with that being said, it's like everybody you've got the Amazon gift card or credit card, and you've got the Express oil change and the Apple and all of them. And for even like just like nothing company, like companies that you shop at like once a quarterly,
right?
Like Ulta or something like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's obvious that that's crowd facing, public facing. That's where the profit is for them. Behind the scenes, it's all data.
Yes.
It's all data. That's what every social media account is.
That data, though, is sellable.
Because they want in your mind.
Yes.
And this isn't to scare anyone. This isn't.
No,
this is just what it is.
This is honestly just the basic plot line of that Netflix show I was telling you about. Is it deep dives into that and how it literally proves exactly what you've deduced is that on the back end, they're literally utilizing and that's what your phones do. Totally. Is that it reads and collects all of this data and then it sells that information to advertisers so that they can better advertise to you.
Totally.
And it is invasive because they're in your messages, they're in your searches, they're like recording everything that you're ever intrigued by.
Yep.
And they're selling that alone, and you would think like, okay, I don't care if you watch me, but they're taking that information and they're making money on you utilizing the device in general. And then they're selling it to advertisers to then turn around and hit you right where you need it or where you don't need it, honestly.
Or where you're susceptible.
Yeah.
As a person in the field of marketing, I've done some work with search engine optimization. I've done some work with Google Ads. I would say I have like a very rough understanding of how they do it. But what I want to do for probably the next episode is I really would like to know how they're listening to us. Because you know how like you'll like think about a hot dog, not even say it out loud, and then a Facebook ad will be like Nathan's hot dog. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's actually scary.
You should really watch that documentary.
I want to, and I also want to look into, because the name of the person who is able to do this spooky stuff is a remarketer, technically. Because remarketing is the practice. It's not marketing, it's remarketing. It's the practice of taking stuff that they know about you and putting you back into the algorithm and making you, making a profile out of you. And okay, so people who are like this person, either demographically or based on interests, they have trended to also like this. So let's push this to this person and see if they'll spend money on this.
Yeah.
And it's all just trial and error, but every single one of those trials and errors are monetizable.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I would really like to find out some information on like how, and I'm going to do this research and like get back to y'all on this because I want to know, like, are they listening to, I mean, obviously they are, but how does that happen? Because if you think about the concept of data as such like a big thing, and I promise we'll talk about something funny after it's like, how do you even categorize that to like
I know.
How do you as like CEO of whatever, CEO of like a shoe store, and you're like, give me all the people that would be interested in me,
right,
or be interested in my brand. How do you know? You know what I mean?
It's because of the algorithm section, and because it categorizes everything.
Yep.
It categorizes all of your it keeps track of how long you look at things. You don't even have to search something.
That's crazy.
It literally is your screen time. If you could you could pause for an extra second and a half, and it notes it. It's like, she thought about that. Next.
It's like they can see where our eyes are on the page.
It's like it's literally based on like what your screen is showing and what your screen was sitting on, and how long you invested in looking at this one specific thing. If it was in a genre of expertise or area than any other thing, they utilize it really is.
I wonder
super
if it
deep.
involves the dark web. Are you familiar with dark web stuff? Have you ever looked into this?
I know like dark web things just out of, I was doing research on this evangelist called John Ramirez, who was a former high priest in the Satanic Kingdom.
Cool.
And
nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
No, I know. I was just his story is so interesting.
Yeah.
And he just talks about Satanism, and he talks about how he was literally a high priest for Satan, and he was like in the Vatican basically of the Dark Kingdom is what they call it.
I didn't even know that existed. That's so interesting.
And it's also Santorini. It's black magic. It's like it's like a whole thing. So anyways, cool. he has this whole documentary out, and it's on YouTube. It's free to watch. It's super intriguing. But he did that for his whole entire life. His family were witches. Like he grew up.
Wow.
He grew up in that church for his whole entire life. It's very generational. But then he's a Christian, and he like goes and basically preaches on how the Dark Kingdom works, because if we don't know, then there's no way we're gonna know how to combat it, basically. Is what he was saying. But it was just so intriguing, and I just wanted to know so much more.
Yeah.
And so I was looking up everything I could about like what Santorini was, like its origins, like all these different things. And then I ended up, and I don't know, when I think dark web, that's what I think is just like these websites that you will probably legally get in trouble if you're on them.
Gotcha.
I found like this website where there were literal human bones for sale. Like literally, it was for these black magic practices.
How
and
did
you could
find
buy.
that?
I don't know, but I found it, and I was like,
"Oh my god, the FBI is on their way to our house right now."
But they was not from this country. It was a whole nother country that they were like selling, and I'm talking every walk of life, every age.
Juicy.
Different types of bones,
Not
different
good.
different all these
Not
because
good.
that's what they use for their rituals is like human bones. We're not talking. I'm not even kidding y'all. Like look it up. It's insane.
Maybe don't.
It's not
Maybe
even.
don't.
It's not. It's like this. The cute version of like the Wicca stuff that everyone's doing is like nothing compared to what these people are doing. Do you know what I'm saying? It's
Totally,
like
yeah.
But it's all under the same like general umbrella. It's more just like this is like the complete under the cover version.
We're going conspiracy now.
Yeah.
No,
it's super intriguing.
there is. I was listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
And y'all know I'm super into like conspiracy, esoteric stuff.
Oh, he's also said, this is really interesting. You might think it's interesting.
Tell me.
He's from New York. He lives in the Bronx.
Okay.
And when he was younger, his like friends and family in this church that they would have, they were normal people. Obviously, they would just like have regular jobs. But there was this market that was down in like on one of the streets down where he was, and it was a store that front facing looked like it sold a bunch of like religious paraphernalia, like for like Catholics, like Mother Mary's and like crucifix and just like angel statues, stuff like that, books with like prayers in them. But he said, but in the back they were like practicing voodoo and like doing all these things onto these objects, and they were linking demons. The store was linking demons to these objects, so that when people would take these objects home thinking that they were like praying to like Saint Peter or whoever, I don't know, that's a Catholic thing. But when they start praying to like these, they're sitting in front of these things to represent who they're praying for. They're not actually praying. That's literally what they would do.
Because I've looked into the practice of Satanism.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's a lot of different aspects of it. A lot of the stuff that I've looked into has not seemed predatory or problematic like this. This seems like a very different group of Satanists.
It definitely well, and I think to the world, if you were a Satanist, this is just, I mean, I don't know.
We might have some Satanist listeners.
You may have a Satanist listener, but I do think that like the deeper you get, it's almost like a Mormon, okay? And I'm gonna just, here we are.
Immunity necklace.
Immunity necklace.
No cancellations, please.
No, I've done my due diligence, okay? Mormons from like the front door, it reads the same as every other, denomination that is Christ. Like, oh yeah, Jesus Christ, all these things. But then like when you actually get into it and you realize they're preaching a whole different ideology. It's a whole Jesus is Satan's brother. That you can become a god. God had mom gods and dad gods, that you can become a god one day. You have your own planets based on how many like children you have and how many wives you have. It is like, so this is what I'm saying, is that like you get into it on the shallow end.
Right.
It looks chill. You get into it on this, and I think it could be the same on the Satanist side. If you're a Satanist and you're like in the shallow end of Satanism, it seems chill because they're like, no, we're not all about demons and devil and all that. Like, we're about like the earth. But then you get into the deep dive and it's like,
right.
It's so much deeper
and perhaps
crazier.
Also in the same way that there's radicals in Judaism and Christianity, there's probably going to be radical groups of Satanism and radical.
And I think it's more just like how invested are you and how like like, but honestly,
and the ideologies,
but the origins are the same.
Gotcha.
So it's like you can't really like debate the origins of the religion if the origins are the origins.
Fair enough.
It's just like whether or not you're like, are you like super religious, or are you like
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it is the same like
stuff.
when it's like that.
But yeah, this podcast that I was listening to, it was like, you would be surprised how much I don't even know if the term is magic, but how much like ritual,
it's magic,
and
it's for real
stuff is involved in like high levels of science, in terms of NASA, in terms of government, I realize that I'm spewing conspiracy on my platform right now.
For this.
But look into it and do your own. If this is like, never blindly believe something.
No.
Ever. And and so when I heard this on the podcast, I was like, that would be a very interesting thing. So I'm going to look into that a lot more. Furthermore,
and it is crazy because I completely I'm so intrigued by that and like the concept of that, but it would make sense. Because even from like John Ramirez's perspective, he was like, he would be in their meetings where they would be like doing all these things. He would be in rooms with politicians. Like, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, there are people who go and they are a part of these religions that do implement those things, that are literally walking around like everyone else.
Yep.
And so to think that it's not infiltrated into the government or into medicine or into the NASA's.
It might be. It also.
NASA.
It also might be like a class secret thing. Like maybe the super rich or the elite or in any capacity have access to like this just like knowledge base of expanding consciousness or
it
anything.
could be, because I know from his experience, what he talked about was that it's instant gratification basically is the like underlying, but like you're doing these satanic rituals to like utilize the power that demons can bring to you right now. You're like basically, you know what I mean? You do certain amounts of things in these rituals, and then you receive something, like whether it be rich, like people would come to him, pay him money to do these rituals for them, and then things would happen in their lives, right?
That's fascinating. That's terrifying
with their super rich people, there are super rich people that have done some really like under the table stuff to kind of get their life moving.
Right.
Which I think that, and not saying that that's everybody, but I think that there definitely are people that are rich and have gotten that far because they're utilizing stuff like that.
I don't remember what the quote was or what the guy was that said it, but the gist of like when you ponder things like this, typically the rule of thumb is that the actual reality of it is far more insane than anything you could think of. So I guarantee you everything exists. Everything. And anyway, with that being said, in the realm of conspiracy,
yes,
immunity necklace time. Let's talk about gun control. No, I'm kidding. I want like a little handgun, and I feel like that's so. I don't know. I tend to be a pretty liberal person, and I do want gun control, but I've been researching a lot about specifically Kentucky, and there's a mammoth cave system in Kentucky, and a lot of people think.
Explain for the people what that means, because I don't know either.
So the cave, it's a cave system, like an underground caves, tunnels, ultimately naturally made, and it's called the Mammoth Cave System.
Yes,
and it's in, I think, central Kentucky. It's a couple hours from us. We're obviously in Nashville. I want to explore these things, and I want to go explore them alone, and I want to, because I'm trying to find me a Bigfoot. And so I have been pondering getting me a little for protection. So do you have? What do you think about that? Do you think but also, I just really think having any item that can literally take a life, which granted,
anything could take a life.
Exactly. If you hit someone hard enough with anything, it can take a life. But having a gun for like, which more or less one of the express purposes is to harm someone if they're trying to harm you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So with that being said, I feel like anytime that we're ever playing God, you know what I mean? That's when I tend to be like, let me take a step.
Yes.
And let me just really think about this and think about like, what are the implications of this? I just like to think things through. Do you have a gun?
No, I don't, but
we're also Southern, keep that in mind.
My family, like I mean, when we were younger, my dad has a safe full of guns. He also, like, I mean,
my dad has some
granted,
guns
when
too.
and I think we need to like establish this too. In the South, hunting culture is so big.
So pervasive.
And so these people buy guns, but they're literally to go and hunt deer when it's deer season, or squirrels when it's like, and also like my family members, they would go and hunt deer and they would eat it. They would use it for meat, for the, like a single deer carcass can last you 6 months.
Not to briefly interrupt you, but imagine what that feels like to like, I mean, and sorry, vegans, but like imagine like, because that's what like primitive man was doing.
Oh yeah.
And it's so crazy to think like, to go get something, I've never done this, and I probably never will, because I'd probably like cry and vomit at the same time, knowing me. To like fulfill your evolutionary purpose, to like kill an animal and eat it and use every aspect of it. Hopefully you use every aspect of it. You're not wasteful. And so it's like, that must be so like
crazy.
It must be validating on like a lizard brain level, on like a primitive lizard brain level.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
But aside from that, and granted, those types of guns are definitely like, they're not automatics. You got like two rounds in each thing. So you've got, it's like you have to take your time. You have to be you have to have your hunting license.
As long
it's
as they're
very
not automatic,
extensive.
I'm chilling.
And you know what I'm saying? I think that outside of that, especially in areas where guns have gotten so out of control that there's no like, the chance that what's standing between you and someone else's gun, if you don't have one, is nothing. And I think at that point, and again, I understand the idea of gun control when it comes to like, we need better, more like processes to make sure that whoever's getting, like, keeping a very consistent psychological upkeep, really making sure that people who are not like mentally ill in any sort of way can be a hold of them. I think those are the areas that people obviously
objectively
we need to
speaking
do this.
that's like I think that it's not even a partisan issue to say that like
it's not.
There's so many school shootings, like that's
we
a
get
problem.
it, but also at the same time, a lot of the things that happen in that way, typically they're not using their own guns anyway. They're stealing them or they're finding, you know what I'm saying?
Really?
It's like, it's not like they're going out and buying. It's like, especially if it's a kid, like this kid isn't gone and bought a gun. He's like, he knows where his dad's gun is.
Yeah, that's
and he's going to get done. Like, that's what I'm saying is like, bottom line, if you want something bad enough,
issue.
There's also a dark web.
There's also a dark web and a black market
for it. So like, regardless of the laws and the rules that you put in place, it's still going to be an issue. Okay. We've got to get over that. Making it as safe for as people as possible, I completely understand that. But I also think that it is your own right to be able to, especially because we do live in a country where it is prominent, to have one for yourself. And it is on you to protect yourself, but also protect the people that are around you by the way you the way you keep it and the way that you make sure that no one else, I think that
has access,
I think there needs to be I don't know if there are, I haven't looked into it, like repercussions for if someone does find your gun or does, I think
uses
that
your
weapon, especially if it's like a family member who knew where it was and it was just an easy thing to get to.
Totally.
Whatever.
That's
Apart
hard.
from that,
That's a hard one. Yeah.
I also grew up going to Memphis a lot for treatment. And I don't know if y'all know this, but Memphis is one of the most dangerous cities in the United States. And so my mom was packing when we were in Memphis. I was, especially as like a mother with a child and you're in Memphis, just the two of you.
Right.
Like St. Jude was wrapped in gates, but like apart from that, like when we get done with treatment at nighttime, like you don't walk around at night in Memphis. Like you just
Definitely
don't.
Not, yeah.
And so it really was, it really is helpful when it's that protection that you have.
Right.
And you have to have the training for it. It's not like anyone should willy-nilly be able to get it.
Definitely extensive training, I agree.
And I think it needs to be updated, really, really religiously. And I think you should be, psychologically evaluated.
Right.
But I think that if you want one and if you're in an area, it doesn't even matter what area you are. I think that if you want one and if you are mentally capable and you can meet all the requirements that it takes, I think you should be allowed to get one. Just because of if we're obviously in a country where there are there are other countries that barely have any guns, and obviously they won't have as many school shootings as we will because there are not as many guns floating around. But I could see why you would be like a little bit more hesitant to just give the random person a gun because it's not everyone that has one. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna be facing people who have guns all the time because they're so rare that it's like, oh dang. Dude. But I also think that if you're in a situation where all you've got is a knife or all you've got is a taser or like mace and like you walk in a room and all of a sudden Home Dog's got a gun, like who's winning? Do you know what I mean? That's the bottom line. It's like when you're in that situation and you're being faced with a gun, yes, there have been instances where people have had guns and it's ruined families and children's and adults' lives.
Nightmares.
But there have also been so many instances where civilians have had guns in the middle of things like this and have literally saved so many people by taking it out or by just getting someone
totally. It's such a nuanced,
you know what I'm saying?
Layered issue.
It is.
It's so situational.
Yeah.
And because I think that's the thing is like I want one for protection.
And then when you say you want one, it's gonna be like a hand. It's like a tiny.
That's what to chime in. I was gonna say I'll take it maybe
big.
even a step further with my own personal beliefs. And I'm not speaking for Abby. I'm speaking for myself with this.
Can I make a point?
Please
you did say a point about the God complex. I want to comment on that too because when it comes to anything that the reason why I would hate to why I don't have a gun isn't because I don't think that people should have guns. It's mainly because I don't know how I would feel if I were to have to take someone's life, like
Totally.
and that's for anything. Like
Yeah.
when it comes to, obviously, if I was in the middle of like, if someone was like beating me up, or
I would
like,
have to be pushed.
I would have to fight.
I would have to be. It's
the-
near them.
right.
They would have to want to
Yes,
kill me for me to be
right.
able to kill someone. I could never otherwise.
And for me though, like even if it were like a home invasion, like I don't know, I think I would be more focused on like getting out of my house than like trying to like kill someone. But I mean, you know, you never know. But
Imagine if you were like, now's my chance
I don't
to
know.
kill someone.
Right. I just think
I've been
that-
waiting my whole life for this.
right. I think that anytime anyone takes a life, it's not like I just never want to. I think life is so precious.
Agreed.
And the if it were up to me in any circumstance, even like when it pertains to like death row or things like that, like it is not my choice to decide who lives and who dies.
That's how I feel too.
I just don't think that that's I don't see myself as like some high enough person. No matter what they've done, I really don't care what they've done.
It's
if they're
a
that
really
if
crazy
they're that
issue.
maniacal and
Yeah.
they're that beyond themselves that they're so fixated on taking other people's lives, they just need to be complete. Like I don't think taking their life is going to be of service to them. I think if anything, putting them in like an institution for the rest of their life and like isolating them will do more to them than killing them. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
And I understand too
That's
that
a hard
that's
issue, too.
I understand too that that's on the tax dollars of the
Right,
people, and that's
right.
a big conflict and like debate that people have. But also like the same amount of money that I'd probably put into my training for like protecting myself and doing all of that over the lifespan of holding my own gun and doing all of that is probably the same amount that I'm probably paying for taxes anyway. So I really don't care. Do you know what I mean?
And
Does
that's
that
your
make sense?
prerogative, my friend. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think my personal belief is that if it's an automatic weapon,
Automatics are only for the military.
that's how I feel.
But even
dude.
then, it's kind of crazy. Like, no, I get it in the middle of a war when you're like, people are nonstop railing at you. You got to be able to protect yourself.
Why do
I hate that it
civilians
has
need
to
weapons
happen.
of war? That's
I
how
know,
I feel.
that's what it
That's
doesn't.
how I
It's
feel.
not necessary.
And I think technically that's like a very partisan belief. But I'm just
Mm.
like, I don't know. I get that maybe it's like the only argument I've heard about a civilian owning an AR is that it's fun. And I'm like, that's not a reason to own an AR.
and if
If
you
you want
have-
to shoot an AR, go to an AR range.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
there's so many other less weapons of war weapons that you can defend
Mm-hmm. Right.
yourself with if
Yeah.
you're truly worried about your life. Another thing I wanted to bring up also
Mm-hmm.
is like it makes me so annoyed when people are like, there are places that are legitimately dangerous, Memphis, right?
right.
But there are also places in a city, and this doesn't mean this is right, but like when people hear gunshots and they're like, "Oh, I can't live in that area. It's gunshots." I'm like, a lot of those things, unfortunately, but also fortunately for the general population, are domestic and they don't involve you,
Right.
And they don't have anything to do with you.
Yes.
And just, I mean,
It's
and
usually very
yes,
personal.
You can be driving
Yes.
by and accidentally catch a bullet.
Right.
That sucks, and
Yes.
we need to do something
But
about
there's
that. I
nothing
agree.
you can actually do about
But
it.
and the likelihood of that, statistically
Yeah.
speaking, is so slim. So you
Right.
can't live in fear of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so with all that being said, I feel like a lot of that might boil down to like a racism thing of people being like, well, there's gunshots there. We can't do, you know what I mean? And that just
Right.
blows my mind. So
Yeah.
Anyway, now that we've talked about gun control, we'll move on to the Israeli-Palestine issue.
No, yeah. And to tap on automatic weapons, I do know of people who train people in automatic weapons because they whether it be like for SWAT or whether it be in military,
Sure.
people who have those kind of collections. I do think that it's almost like car cult, and this is so weird. But if you think about it, cars kill people too. In a sense, you know what I'm
Totally.
saying? Like car accidents, drunk driving, whatever. People
Right.
use their cars very recklessly, and it ends up killing people or themselves.
Definitely.
Same with people cleaning out their guns, kill themselves on accident all the time.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Regardless, it's weird because I do think that there's a collector's culture around guns. Like I think same way with like cars. There's like all
Absolutely.
these like who needs 12 cars?
Who needs 12 cars?
Who needs 12 cars?
Who needs 12
Who
guns?
needs 12 guns? Nobody needs 12 guns. Do we live in a free country where you can? Yeah. Like technically, if you're being safe, if you have all these requirements and you're meeting them and you're like keeping up your registrations as consistently as you're supposed to be, which I think again should probably be more nowadays. I don't know. Y'all, I do not know anything about the laws pertaining to the things that we're talking about. But I do think that, if you have a family member that is like off the walls and you're scared, or other people are scared for their safety because they are so closely connected to you and you have a collection, I think that should be taken into consideration too. Like, if you think about it, you're just a really close window for them to like go off and do whatever. I think it's almost like putting the people that are the most likely to put people in reckless danger, keeping them as far away from anything that would incentivize them to take action is something that is important, but also at the same time that person has rights too, and they can't, you can't like control people like that.
Totally.
I don't know. It's weird, but automatic weapons, I'm pretty sure they're not legal, right? For people who aren't in the military.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I think
I don't
you can
know.
own them. I think that's the whole thing.
There are also
that
people who with 3D printed gun parts, which is also
Have you seen the
crazy
stories
thing.
about how people can like? There's like you can 3D print like muting things for like to silencers.
Oh,
that's
a
what I mean. Sorry,
silencer.
not muting things.
Very
I
spy
love
of
guns.
them. Yeah.
Muting things. Anyway.
Yeah. No, that's so
think
interesting.
About how this episode we have given them sound bites that they can take out of context and ruin us.
I
And
don't
it's like,
care.
That's
I'll say it again and again.
And
you know what I mean?
The thing
You
is,
can't really
like,
help
when
it.
we talk about stuff like this, we acknowledge that we're coming from a place. We are whatever identities we are. We're doing our best. You know what I mean? So like, if we're wrong and if y'all like jump down our throats in the comments, or if there's plenty of, you know what I mean? Like,
and we
want to
grow. Years could
learn.
pass, and we could
learn.
change our minds later on.
Totally.
But this is just kind of what we're processing and how we feel like on this very day, in this very moment.
We're just being real with y'all, guys.
Yeah.
You ever been in a mosh pit?
Oh yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, have I already told this story too? I feel like I'm losing my mind.
No.
Cut that out.
We've
Morgan.
been out for so long.
That we have. And I think the thing was, I wrote the script for that time that I canceled on you. And so I've planned all these stories and I haven't. Anyway.
You've gone through them in your head.
I cannot think of something in the world that disagrees with my personal energy less. Disagrees with my personal energy more than a mosh pit.
Okay, because of just the constant touching and like the severe like
I didn't realize there was touching.
aggression. Oh yeah,
I thought it was just like accidental touch. It's constant touching.
Well, not like a mosh pit is where you're intentionally like pushing, like you're like shouldering people and like basically throwing people around.
Y'all see the fear in my eyes?
You're throwing people around
I
in the
don't
pit.
like people enough to like want to be. It's certainly not strangers because I've been really weird. I'm noticing with this, like, I'm in like some therapy stuff right now that I'm doing and blah blah blah. I'm noticing I'm entering this phase where I'm really weird about physical touch.
And that's fair.
And I saw a video on TikTok of a mosh pit, and I looked at it and I was like, ask me what it's like to be legally tortured, and that's what that would be for me.
Yep.
How to legally torture me is to be like, hey, go sit in this mosh pit.
The fact about mosh pits, though, is that they're usually little pockets in the crowd.
Right,
So
right,
you
right.
can avoid them. As soon as you just have to see for signs. As soon as you see two, typically men, like starting to basically shoulder shove themselves and other people around them.
There's a swirling motion.
It's a swirling.
What is that about?
It's a let's just create such a dizzy for this group that we're about to just interact with for no reason other than hype.
Yeah.
To
Maybe
the
my
point
mind
where
will be changed if I experience
I
it.
don't know. It's people who are like I think it's just the ADD pocket of the crowd.
Love
you know what
that.
I'm saying?
Love
Like,
that idea. Maybe those are my people.
They just need to like get their energy out. They feel so
ADHD, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're so moved by the music, and they're so excited to be there that they can't help but just like they have to get their energy out. And I think that they find their group of people that are down to just like literally tussle around
Tussle.
tussle around to the music, and they're down to potentially break bones.
That's a beautiful way of looking at that, because I was like, y'all are crazy and you're doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, maybe we're all so moved and we're all so full of energy. If you think about it, it's a collectivist experience.
It is.
And maybe I shouldn't be crapping all over it,
You know?
but in the meantime,
Have you ever crowd surfed?
A couple Absolutely not. A couple things about me. I don't like to move fast. I don't like loud noises. I'm like imagine like a chihuahua just shivering. That's what I am on the inside. I might seem
cute,
cool
yeah.
on the outside, but I'm not. Looking at that video of a mosh pit, I was like, not only do y'all need help, y'all maybe don't yell so much, but it's a concert.
It is a
It doesn't
concert.
matter.
Yeah. You're deaf walking out anyway.
Okay,
Yes.
I am in a season of my life, everyone. Hello. Where I am single.
Singular.
And singular, exactly. And I am using undisclosed dating apps. And I am just in a place where it feels like I have nothing to lose. So I'm and not nothing to lose. It's like I'm just having a fun time. So the other day I was talking to this person on a dating app, and I just was, you know me, like I love a bit.
Yeah.
So I just decided to pretend that I don't know what asthma is.
Okay.
And they were like, she was like, yeah, like I have like really bad asthma. And I was like, oh, what's that? And she was like,
what?
you don't know what asthma is? And I was like, no, I've never heard that. What is that? Is that like with like your heart? And she literally, like, I let it go for so long, and it was so, and eventually I was like, I've literally just been kidding the whole time. Like, obviously I know what asthma is. And she was like, she bought in. She bought in.
Okay,
She was cool with that.
okay.
Another time, this poor girl, shout out to this girl. I was chatting to this girl, and I was at the gym. We were texting, and I was like, oh my God, I just found this song. This is like, I cannot believe, like, this is such a good song. I like have never even heard anything like this. And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, do you want me to send you this? Like, this is crazy. Like, I've never heard this song before. And she was like, yeah, like, you're making such a big deal. Just send it. And I sent her Closer by the Chainsmokers. Sometimes you just have to mess around and have it. I have been known. I think my friend Delaney, shout out Delaney, she said I'm in my Reputation era, like the Taylor Swift album.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like kind of a villain, you know? Like
the villain who lies about knowing what asthma is.
Correct.
And acts
Not
like
a
Closer is
lie,
the first
a
song.
bit.
No, I know, but it's like if that's what evil is.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I'm I have been known to tweet, as in last week I tweeted, if I ick you, it's your fault.
That's kind of true.
With the meme of Mark Zuckerberg with eyelashes, of course.
Okay.
And
I've never
the
seen
meme
it.
was unrelated, but I just threw that in for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing is like, and like if something I do, I am who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm really
and that's
coming.
what I was about
I'm
to
really
say.
coming to love who that person is.
I was about to say that I don't think it even doesn't even really matter that it's on. It doesn't matter what dating app you're on. You would do that to someone in a grocery store.
I do that to you almost every day.
Yeah. And I'm
This
slowly
person
catching
deals with
on.
me. That's going to be another floodgates thing. Like we talked about last week, floodgates are going to open and you're going to just be like hitting me with like, have you ever heard of dog food? Like you're just going to say something insane and just, which I can't wait for that day. I can't wait for that day.
What did I do? I feel like I did something to you. Okay, the other day, no, New Year's.
Yeah?
We were sitting down and I'd had a little baggie full of nerd clusters that I brought for myself as a snack. And I'm sitting there and I felt so proud about this because this is something she would have done to me. I was sitting there and I was like snacking on my little nerds, and then I was just like, try it. She was like, what is that? And I was like, try it. You're going to love it.
Because I was like, well, she had a clear plastic baggie of nerds at a party.
And so, anyways, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, try it. You're gonna die. They're so good. She tries it and I was like, I made it. And she goes, and also she's like right here. I'm behind her a little bit.
I was so mad when I fell for it.
She goes, she takes it, eats it. You made this? Dude, no way. You made this?
I was so proud of her.
And I said,
I'm telling you, hook, line, and sinker, I fell all the way in.
And as soon as she was talking,
God,
I
so
could not even stop myself from laughing. I'm just like,
she went, like, yeah. And I was like, okay,
and she's
you gave
like,
yourself
you did
away.
not.
I was
You
like,
did
you
not.
demon.
I
You
couldn't
demon.
even. That's the thing with me is that I can't even like. I can try really hard in the beginning. If it's like non-scripted, it's rough. It's rough for me to try to like commit to the bit if I think it's so funny because I will.
Oh, because you'll laugh.
I laugh at stupid stuff to begin with, but if it's already like coming at me funny, like because I'm just thinking about the whole situation in general, I'm like overplaying what is going on. I I'm not gonna not laugh. And so I
Totally.
give myself away every
It's so
freaking
endearing,
time.
though. It's so
but
cute,
I can't
though.
even get away with it at all. Like I just literally end up exposing myself because I think it's so funny
Right.
that I can't control. I can't control it. I literally have a hard time. And so, anyways, I'm in improv class and I'm working on it.
She's
trying
great.
not
She's
to
doing great.
laugh
You're
in the
already
middle of
so
the bit.
naturally funny, though. Like, truly.
That's so kind.
You say insane things. The moral of the story is that Abby is funny and she can commit to the bit, and she like quite literally pulled one over on me on New Year's, and it was great.
I was so proud for a little bit.
With that being said, we're gonna wrap this one up.
Mm-hmm.
Please like, subscribe, comment on this episode, tell us your thoughts. Say something silly to me.
Yes, hit that notification bell.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is
Look
it?
both ways before you cross the street,
Yes,
and everything's connected.
because cars are danger.
Cars are dangerous.
Cars are dangerous.
So are guns.
It all is. So are rocks and knives.
Oh,
so.
we should close with the song again.